Okay, welcome back to part 2. So this is our work session of Las Cruces City Council. Today is Monday, August 9th, approximately 1:30 p.m. And so we're going to go ahead and start off like we normally do with our pet of the week. And I see Clint Thacker out in the audience who's going to introduce usually at one cat and one dog. So I don't know, change if you mixed it up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council, Clint Thacker, Executive Director of the Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley, here today to present to you the Pets of the Week. Cat of the Week here is Figaro, male, neutered, about 5 months old. This cat, the more love you give him, the more he's going to show you, wants to be on your lap, snuggle, and cuddle, available for adoption there at the Animal Service Center. The next is our Dog of the Week, Casper. Neutered male, 4 years old, and again, he's quiet, but the more attention you give him, the more he's going to want to love you and be with you. So all adoptions are there at our center. Please call, make an appointment if you'd like to make an adoption or meet Casper or Figaro. Also, we have an the vaccine clinic is on the 22nd of August. $10 vaccines and $10 microchips. That's going to be at the Field of Dreams from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So who's Figaro? Is that the cat?
That's the cat, yeah.
Okay, all right, just checking. All right, thank you. All right, now we're going to go to Jobs of the Week. And it looks like Dr. Payadas will be.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. For this week's Jobs of the Week, let me just open this real quick. We have a community advocate that is being hired by the Las Cruces Police Department. This position is going to close on August the 19th. We also have 2 positions available for janitor and cleaner for sensational janitorial services. This position closes on September the 30th. Café Plaza de Mesilla is also hiring a dishwasher for those individuals that would like to apply for it. This position closes on August 29th. There's a food safety specialist with Rental Kill North America, and this position closes on the 29th of October. And we also have a position with the Vida Healthcare Partners. This is for a patient care technician. This position closes in October 27. And again, if you are looking for a job or if you are wanting to post a job, the hot job market is available. So for a full list of jobs, internships, and volunteer opportunities, you can visit www.employnm.com and also www.governmentjobs.com/careers/Las Cruces. And for the New Mexico Workforce Connection, our partners, their contact information, they're located at 226 South Alameda Boulevard, and their phone number is 575-524-6250. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Payadas. And with that, now we're going to go, we have 2 items on the agenda. First one being the Economic Development Partnership updates. And it looks like Elizabeth Teeters will be discussing, and Chris Faber as well.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Elizabeth Teeters with the Economic Development Department. Every year we do an update with our economic development partners to let City Council know what they've been up to in this past year. So this is our annual update. We have 4 partners: the Downtown Las Cruces Partnership, the Farmers and Craft Market of Las Cruces, Film Las Cruces, and Mesilla Valley Economic Development Alliance. And with that, I will turn it over to Chris to introduce.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. Chris Faber, Economic Development for the record. So with Destination Downtown, part of economic development, we have 2 community partners, Downtown Las Cruces Partnership and the Farmers Market. And here to present on downtown is Jennifer Kozlowski, who's the Executive Director. So I'll turn it over to her.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm Jennifer Garcia Kozlowski with the Downtown Las Cruces Partnership, and I will be giving you our yearly overview. I get confused. Do I get to do that? Okay, sorry. First of all, I like to always go over our mission for Downtown Las Cruces Partnership. And what our mission is to create a signature business destination that celebrates our region's rich heritage, cultural heritage, local arts and culture, and contributes to a thriving, sustainable, and economically vibrant downtown. Everything that we do at DLCP always bases back to this as our mission goes forward, and it's something that we always want to bring forward in anything that we recruit, we try to do with Downtown Las Cruces. This year, we are accredited again under Main Street America, and we are also accredited once again under New Mexico Main Street. Also, what happened this year is we are the only downtown program that has 2 economic development specialists. Susan and I both have received our accreditation through New Mexico Main Street and Main Street America. Here's a quick at a glance for our economic vitality. As you can see on the left side, these are the new businesses that came in during a year of COVID that we really didn't think we were going to see this much movement and this much positivity in the downtown, but we did, and we're very excited. We've had 11 new businesses open. We have 3 pending projects, and it's actually 4. And most of these will be opening fairly soon. Willow and Bain, I think, is September. Mateo's is next weekend. And Mesilla Valley Pharmacy is in the next couple months, is their hope. We have seen 29 new jobs in the downtown, and about $2.8 million in private investment money in downtown, with people fixing up kitchens, fixing up their areas of their jobs and how they're employing the people in downtown. Over the last year, again through COVID, we saw 2,637 hours of volunteer time from our board of directors and other people working to help us keep downtown active. And with that, we see 142 volunteers. As you all know, we go year by year on a strategic plan. We base everything off a strategic plan that DLCP puts together, and then we work with the city into creating our service agreement. This year, these are our deliverables and our accomplishments. The first, despite COVID, we actually had our chili drop. We were able to work with KVIA, and they hosted a virtual event. They gave us 25 minutes on one of their channels, and I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor for your guys' help in making sure that this happened, because when we reached out to you all, you said, yes, let's do this, let's keep going forward, and I'm very proud that we were able to keep something going and not another cancellation. We provided extensive training and outreach to districts on an individual basis, and we really worked hard to distribute timely information in regards to resources for innovative practices during the pandemic. This comes back to Susan and I actually constantly being on Zoom meetings across the country with Main Street America as well as our state, and finding out about grants, other types of loans and things that our small businesses could take part in. We shared this information about financial opportunities with both grants and loans, and we also conducted research for the individual businesses, and we wrote letters of grant recommendation letters for 3 of our downtown businesses. And I believe that Amador actually got one of them from the James Beard, so we're pretty excited about that. We provided the district business with technical assistance, grant resources, and other economic incentive opportunities. Through this, we really offered our support in marketing and promotion and graphic design and logo creation to our businesses downtown, and really helped encourage them to go online. We have a really resilient group of businesses in our downtown district, and when I'm saying downtown district, I am meaning from El Paseo, partially El Paseo, it's the TID district in that size. They really worked hard together. They figured out how to, with us, we figured out how they could do Instagram Lives, they did Facebook Lives, and they showed their resiliency, and they showed that they see themselves as part of a community, and they really worked hard to help each other out, which I really hold that near and dear for a year that was crazy for all of us. We distributed several surveys, including a national, state, and local, as well as an in-house created survey to target and measure the impacts of COVID. One of the biggest things that we did learn is people are sick of surveys. It got to the point where people would just respond back, don't want to respond anymore. But we did receive a lot of information going forward that we usually share with Chris and Economic Development. We did complete our Doing Business Downtown Guide, and this is going to be a supplement to the city's Doing Business Guide. We are waiting on a couple more data points in conjunction with the city and the state, so it is ready to go, it just has not been printed. We need 2 more data points for it. We, through grants and donations, I'm proud to say that, and State of New Mexico federal COVID relief funds, New Mexico Main Street assistance, that we were able to achieve our financial match with you all this year again. And again, it was not an easy year to do that, but fortunately, we were able to. With the help of New Mexico Main Street, DLCP conducted a district void analysis and developed a recruitment plan. That will be ongoing in our next year. We'll probably do a secondary void analysis and see where we are at the moment. We're fortunate to meet, I already said that, sorry. Through the evaluation of the local economic development ecosystem, DLCP created programs which filled gaps without duplicating local services and/or projects. And that's and that's something that we worked really diligently with Chris Favor on, trying to see where we can fit in without overdoing what the city's already doing, and things that we can do as a nonprofit that maybe the city can't do, to really make sure that we are working in tandem as a partner and not stepping on each other's feet. Another part that runs with DLCP and is our collaborative with the Las Cruces Arts and Cultural District. We had a heck of a year. It was really, really fast moving, and we had a couple inaugural events that we put forward. The first one is the creation of the Artist in Residence program. This promoted 6 artists who lived and or worked in the district, so it's a play on the term artist in residence. It is not what we traditionally think of an artist in residence program, but we also wanted to come up with something that we knew could move forward and help our artists in the district. We didn't do the in-person events as we wanted to, but we were able to pivot into other possibilities and do a lot of, we did 3-part series for each artist. And thanks to Bob Diven to helping us with this process. The program will be expanded for next year, and we believe that the videos were absolutely, I should say we know the videos were a lot more successful than we originally thought they would be. The other thing that we did this year was the inaugural year of the Generations Community Writing Project. 8 writers were selected and paired with a pool of 28 applicants. There was a virtual reading on Zoom, and a few of you, thank you, Councilor Bencomo, and were a part of that. And I believe Mayor Pro Tem Gandara was a part of that as well. And it was attended by over 35 people. We got great feedback. It was fun. It was touching. The theme for the writers was hope, and they wove in their stories of hope, how they saw it. I can say quite a few of us were crying because each of the stories, they really meant something. We had notable participants and attendees in regards, again, one of our winners was the Doña Ana County Sheriff, Kim Stewart, and Cassie McClure was named they both were named the outstanding writers. Very exciting about that to have them, and Senator Rubio was also one of our participants this year. With our Las Cruces Arts and Cultural District continued, I hope you've seen it, we commissioned the Go Thrive B, which corresponds with our new advertising component for downtown, and it is on the front of Instacopy on Main Street. Our goal is to be able to get a little bit more money to start making it a little bit larger, and maybe having some scenes. There's many ideas brewing and bubbling in the background on that one. We will continue our Ventanas Vivas program. That is our temporary art installation for holiday art in downtown on the business windows of the businesses. We did have a few less that were involved in it this year, simply because I think doors were closed, businesses were closed. So I think we're going to see a big jump in it next year and be back to where we were. We also were part of our completion was the Arts and Cultural website page, and that sits on the DLCP website, and that changes continually with different things that are going on. Our ongoing projects is going to be the downtown recruitment and recovery projects, our property and business inventory of the TID and ACD. This was something that was given to us a couple years ago to do. We have it. It's a living and breathing document. We plan on working a little bit harder and more closely with realtors and property developers this year in order to expand on it and to make sure it's clean, because sometimes we don't hear when a business closes, and so it's a little bit more difficult for us to get them off of our list. We will be working with New Mexico Main Street in regards to a business, excuse me, that's next one, I apologize. The Business Contact and Assistant Program, we worked with Chris Favor on that this year with economic development, reaching out to all the businesses in the district to make sure we had proper contact information and to see if there's any assistance that the city or DLCP could provide. we will be continuing that project as well. We are doing one-on-one technical assistance opportunities for potential emerging and established downtown businesses. This kind of correlates with the one directly, I lied to you. It corresponds with something else we're doing with our ideation process and some ideas that we have where people can come in and we have open doors and they can pitch to us ideas and we can talk to them and walk them through the process of opening a business, what we have available in downtown, and really show them the next steps. Everyone starts with a dream. We just want to show them how they can reach their dreams. We will be doing the How Can We Help diagnostic tool and the Downtown Business Resident and Advisor. It's a downtown business resident and visitor advocacy tool. We'll be continuing with that. We'll be continuing with our Business Spotlight video program. We choose a business once a month. We do a video on them. It's a good 1 minute to 2 minute piece. It can be used for them to do commercials afterwards. It is high quality, and we've been able to really do some great things for our businesses downtown. Annual community survey to capture and measure attitudes and opinions about downtown. This year, we did it. We got spammed really crazily with it this year, and I'm not sure what we can do for next year to not let that happen again. We are still waiting on some of our data review, but this is something that I know the city holds strongly with us. We are seeing that there's always a positive idea of where downtown is going. People are really enjoying it. As usual, we will get complaints, and we try to follow up on them just to see, if it's a valid complaint, we want to follow up with people and see how we can give them a better view of downtown or what we need to do to improve our downtown. The last one is the LCP interest survey to gauge the community need for a business accelerator. This was something that we were working on in conjunction prior with the idea of the city having an incubator. Where do we fit in on this? What can we do? Can we work on maybe a small incubator or accelerator aspect that we can push forward? And with our 501c3 status, I think it puts us in a driver's seat for something like that. Coming up on our new contract, these are things that we see us moving into in 21-22. The big one is expanding our scope of artists in residence to program to include established creative economy businesses, creative economy business owners mentoring emerging business owners. And we haven't quite a full plan with this. We're setting up an ad hoc committee, and we're going to be working with New Mexico Main Street so we can help develop this mentoring component and how that will work with the standing artists in residence, how we meld them together. We're going to be doing a literary arts theme event with readings at several businesses as well as public venues and performance spaces. This will take work from many stakeholders in order for us to create the vision that we have. It's projected for April 2022. The other thing, we have to restart our quarterly downtown meetings. We did let those go. We tried to keep going through COVID. We weren't getting any people signing on, so we let them go. We will be starting those. We're hoping that our first one can be in October and we can get back on the move. And just so for you guys to know that may not have known before, these have an educational component. They have a component where the city comes and speaks, DLCP speaks, and then it allows for other businesses of downtown area to speak to each other and to maybe work on problem solving for issues that have come up. Creation of a focused business recruitment and retention program that will align with the city's master plan. That is one of our big babies for this next year, and I think it's quite important that we make sure that we align with your vision of how you see downtown growing, how you see the city growing, and with that, we also make sure that we don't leave anybody out of the process and that we make sure that downtown is a place for all. We have a wider range of available free technical assistance programs with help from New Mexico Main Street, so that's going to be part of our educational process. The introduction of office hours, and this goes back to what I said on the last slide, with the ideation sessions and a targeted networking of events. We'd like to start going to different areas downtown, maybe some of our breweries, whatever, and just having open events and having people come and maybe in a more comfortable way, they're willing to talk about things and they can give us their 2 cents and we can help them out in the next steps. Expansion of targeted marketing and promotional program in collaboration with the City of Las Cruces. Again, we want to see our marketing and promotions and our Go Thrive B work with Destination Downtown, and we want to see them work together and not separately. So it's a big, another part of our collaboration with each other. We'll be adding a lot of blog spots and posts to our social media, hopefully to encourage traffic to our website, to the city's website, to visit Las Cruces, as well as actual traffic to downtown and people coming out to visit what we have to offer. And quickly, this is a little bit of what we did this past year. As you can see, the far left on me, is our new poster for downtown Las Cruces. It has all of everything that you want to see what is within our downtown. I really love it, and I love our new colors and how we're moving forward. Our DLCP, Happy New Year from DLCP, and our chili drop. We have our AIM Fit meals at the bottom. That was one of our business spotlights. One of our downtown artist and resident spotlights was Marcus Cormichael. That was one of his slots. There's a look of Beck's Coffee House with their Ventanas Vivas window. And then our Generations 2021 writers, those are their bios and their bio page that we sent out. I think we were going to try to play the commercial. Okay, maybe I can't. I will email that to you all. It's not linked on here. That's my bad. I apologize. I might be able to link it to you all as soon as I finish talking. So I apologize for that mistake, but with that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Questions? Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilor Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jennifer. I always appreciate the work that you all do to include the ACD. The downtown is looking fabulous, and really proud of, especially proud of the work during COVID. I know how difficult it was for businesses, and your leadership really showed, and I appreciate it. So
thank you,
it's more of a comment. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Vasquez and Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jennifer. That was a wonderful presentation, and given the hardships of COVID and the pandemic and the limited ability we had to obviously gather in place and the impact that it had on our businesses as well. I'm just really pleased to see the resiliency of our businesses downtown, the addition of new businesses that have stuck through this entire process, and perhaps having to wait to actually have customers in the door. So I just want to say thank you for all your creativity and helping our community, our downtown community, get through that. And I love the new mural. I think we love that partnership with the businesses that allow us to use some of their blank space. I just have one quick question, and it's around just the commercial real estate and, in the area. How would you maybe characterize, I guess, the growth of the commercial capabilities for the downtown? Are you seeing that spaces are in high demand? Are you seeing that folks are much more interested in starting a business downtown than the year before? And are prices going up or down as far as you know?
I can't really speak to the prices. I need to get that information. The last we checked, they were going up, but where we saw the issues is they're going up on properties that actually needed more work on the inside. And so a brand new starting business really can't afford that. So we're trying to, one of our goals for this next year is to work with our property owners and how we can balance that out. So if someone wants to start a new job, or a new business, and they can work with the property owners, and maybe, I can't be their realtor, but we can be an intermediary or a mediator, I guess, is a sense in that. We do get quite a few phone calls of people wanting to move into downtown. Our biggest issue is, again, size, because some of them are going to be small size businesses, and they can't go into something where, let's say, where Vintage Mercado was. They don't have the need for that much space. So one of the things Susan and I've worked on is some of these new businesses. We're kind of talking to them to see how they could actually work together and maybe get a space together and, carve it out into 3 separate sections, something to where it can be affordable for them and it can be a boon for us in the downtown.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Bencomo?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was a really great presentation. I really appreciate it. You briefly mentioned incubator, accelerator, and you said, I loved what you said, being at the wheel, I think.
We can be the driver.
Driver. Can you say a little bit more about that? I'm curious about what you all have been thinking.
Well, Councilor Bencomo, Council, we have a million ideas over this. This is actually something where we would actually get our New Mexico assistants from New Mexico Main Street and really delve into how the incubators and the accelerators have worked with other parts of New Mexico. All of our little communities are different and they all need different things. So our first foray into this is working with Sean O'Shea of New Mexico Main Street, is creating an accelerator program to where we kind of sort of fast track you and get you moving through and sitting you down. And again, it's that sitting down and creating an environment for people to have ideas and to teach them how they can achieve those ideas. So a balance with that, and so I don't know where we're standing with the city's incubator aspect. I think if that comes to be where, if DLCP starts, and this is probably a couple of years down the road, because you can't just start an incubator. It's going to take a little bit of time, but that would end up being almost what we'd have to do full time, and some of the other things would come down because we would be spending a full amount of time training new businesses and helping them cook, having a kitchen, helping, space that they could do quick retail and, fine tune their skills and what they're wanting to offer. I think that would be a really full time for DLCP.
Thank you, Jennifer, for going deeper into that. And then honestly, my last question is just, moving forward, what do you think the biggest challenge or opportunity is for downtown, and how can we support?
Currently, our biggest challenge is recruitment. And I say this, there's the idea, we see things coming in. We would like to work a little more closely with the city in regards to retail recruitment. We have talked to retailers in the past that say they would like to see a couple more restaurants open, because restaurants consistently bring people. So when they see that, they'll then I'll open up my store and I can balance out. One of our greatest partnerships is with our farmers and crafts market. That actually brings people downtown on the weekend, and they end up staying later and they find something maybe they didn't know. So we're very proud of that partnership with everything that Tiffany and her team has done. I would say retail, and currently, we talked about this over the weekend. Another thing is we have a few restaurants downtown that are having a hard time finding servers. And it's that balance between how we can help proactively and stay within our economic development status and our 501c3 status. But I would like to say one of our biggest things is how we can work with the city about finding employees for some of our restaurants downtown. And I know we're not the only one that will say that, so.
Interesting. And so maybe my follow-up is for Elizabeth, for you, in terms of what is the role of the Economic Development Department in those particular aspects? Retail recruitment, supporting with, staffing.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Teeters again, Mayor, Councilor Bencomo. I would say we haven't really worked too much on recruitment of retail, but it's something that we can definitely start partnering with. And as for the employees, everybody is struggling right now getting employment, and so we have some stuff in the works internally, possibly, and so it's just creating those relationships and figuring out how we can best help businesses get people back to work.
I appreciate you both. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Veral. And I just really quickly wanted to say I want to thank Chris Favor. He's been a strong advocate for us, and actually it's been really, really refreshing working with him over this past year, so thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer, and credit to you and your enthusiasm and the position that you hold. We've seen a lot of people who've held this, and you've done a fantastic job. And we're really proud to have you associated with us.
Chris Favor, Economic Development. If I could just add two things real quick before we move on to the farmers market. Councilor Vasquez, to your point about real estate downtown, we talked about this at the TID meeting, which I don't think you were at, but we do have the Renovate Main Street program that we do through Economic Development. Last fiscal year, we did 7 of those, and it's a $25,000 match This year, we're budgeting for 8, so we're hoping to see a lot more new faces downtown and help some of these businesses, do some work on their property to sort of deal with some of those cost issues. The second thing is on the incubator. Jennifer's right, and I've been talking with our consultants. They do function well with a 501c3 as a component behind it. That's how most of these incubators are done, a dedicated 501c3 that sort of helps carry that project forward. There's better funding opportunities and things like that from grants and things that allow those programs to work, so there could be a good partnership there. So, next up is Tiffany Thompson with the Las Cruces Farmers and Crafts Market.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. My name is Tiffany Thompson, and I am the manager for the Farmers and Crafts Market of Las Cruces. I'd like to just start out giving you a general info about the market currently and where we stand. Right now, we do have 143 permanent vendors. Those are the vendors that are there more consistently and have a permanent location within the market. We have 91 temporary vendors. Those are those that choose not to come as frequently, and they move about within the market. We currently have 32 registered musicians, 8 of which are under the age of 18. And we did bring back nonprofit organizations in May. And with that, we also brought back our on-site animal adoptions with the Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley. They began again at the last weekend of May. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of where we stand currently versus what we were doing pre-COVID, we would typically have an average of 160 Saturday vendors prior to COVID, and right now we're averaging at about 110. So we did see a significant decrease in our current membership, and that just stems from a year of not being able to bring in any new vendors to replace those that were leaving for various reasons. But we did begin bringing new vendors in again in June, and so those current numbers do reflect about 20 new vendors that we brought in just in the past month, and we are currently scheduling orientations to bring new vendors in about every 2 weeks right now. So we're trying to get those numbers back up and allow the folks of Doñana to sell their wares. As part of our lease, we are required to spend $24,000 annually in advertising for the downtown. However, last year we did not. We only spent just under $2,000, and that's because of COVID. We wanted to make sure that we were following public health orders and preventing unnecessarily mass gathering. So we did drop our advertising dollars, and that was also a way for us to try to recoup what we lost during COVID due to lower membership numbers. Now, we were voted several categories as the best in the Bulletin's Best of Mesilla Valley in 2021. We took the best art exhibit, best local event, best place to take out-of-town guests, best outdoor event, best attraction, and best mall/shopping center. So we are very, very proud and thankful for the community to have voted us the top organization in all of those categories. Now, one thing that we did do is we did continue with some of our rack card distribution. We still wanted to get out to the community that we were a local food source and that we were still open for locally grown foods. We wanted to make sure that that was still supported throughout COVID, even when the organization was mostly shut down and we did not have any of our craft vendors. We also promoted on social media, and we continue to update our website. One of the things that we are most proud of, especially this past year, is how we have supported some of our lower income families. Now, we do accept EBT as a payment at our market, and we have several programs that run off of that. The Double Up Food Bucks is a free program to consumers where we double whatever they want to take off of their assistance card for free. So if a family comes up and takes $10 off of their card, we give them $20 to spend at the market. And that's something that is through a grant through the New Mexico Farmers Marketing Association. Those are state and federal dollars. And as you can see here, we've seen an increase in almost every single category this year. So our SNAP dollars almost doubled in what we saw the previous year. Double Up was also quite an increase. WIC stayed approximately the same, but that's just what was available through the state. Our Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program also increased by almost $10,000. And the only one that didn't see an increase was the Enhancement Program, but it stayed about the same. So compared to last year we had approximately $135,000 of assistance going through our market alone, and this past year we saw $182,000. And that's all money that is staying local in our community. It is going directly to our farmers and growers, and we hope to continue with that increase. So with that, I stand for questions.
Thanks, Tiffany. Councilor Sorg and Councilor Bate-Stuvi and Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. I didn't catch your name again.
Tiffany Thompson.
Tiffany. Wow. Yeah, I was wondering if you are considering having an evening market like we used to have for Wednesday nights, for example.
We are not. It is not currently within our budget to provide the entertainment and other activities that we used to provide. And typically without those, we don't generally see the customer flow that it's required for the vendors to make anything.
Yeah, I understand where you come from. I remember the entertainment that was provided a couple, 3 Wednesday evening markets, and it was quite good. Yeah, it really brought the people out. But can we substitute Wednesday mornings for an evening one, switch them?
So we have asked the vendors, but unfortunately the customer base that comes out is strictly for the entertainment and food trucks. And so the vendors have chosen to continue with Wednesday mornings. Yeah.
Okay, too bad. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Bate-Stuvi and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Thompson. I know for so many families, Saturday mornings are farmer market mornings, and it's great entertainment. I was looking at your numbers for vendors, and I think that was on slide 14. You said that the new average was the 110, but you have the 143 permanent vendors. About how many of those vendors do you think are monthly or specialty vendors, and then how many do you think are regular?
So the only breakdown that we have is between the permanent and temporary. Any vendor can choose to come whenever he or she decides to. We don't mandate that they have to be here so many Saturdays a year. It's just the pay scale is different versus the 2 different types of vendors and the location. A lot of what we lost throughout COVID were both permanent and temporary. We'd say that it was equally the same, but the problem was that we couldn't bring any new temporary vendors in to become permanent vendors to replace those that we lost.
Okay, thank you. And about how many vendors do you hope to get within the next year to follow it through? I'm not sure you'll be able to get up to those other numbers, but are you looking for a specific number kind of to help ease?
We are hoping to get back to our pre-COVID average by spring of next year. We have been bringing in new groups every 2 weeks. We're trying to get through the year-long stack of applications that piled up while we weren't bringing in new vendors. But with that, we do expect to steadily increase and not quite hit the numbers by the end of the year, but we are hopeful.
Wonderful, thank you. And I absolutely love seeing how many individuals are able to purchase their produce from the market. I was wondering about how many vendors do you think you have now that are actually selling produce versus the arts and crafts? And if we're seeing any sort of trends with any of our local farmers?
So we have between 30 and 40 agricultural vendors. So that includes produce vendors, baked goods, meat, honey, all of that. We've stayed pretty consistent in that number over the past 4-ish years. But about 4 years ago, we did see a pretty steady decrease. And the majority of that has to do with water issues.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mayor. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tiffany, for being here and for your presentation. Always proud of the farmers market. It is a Saturday morning ritual for me, that's for sure, and for many of our families in community. I appreciate everybody. I know how difficult, again, COVID has been. My question is around the recruitment. Is there anything that the city can do to help incentivize maybe these permanent and/or I guess you're calling it temporary vendors, I suppose, because eventually these might be folks that might have come into a bricks and mortar, and maybe tying in Jennifer and Chris's work, right, with I don't know, the accelerator programming and such with the incubator as well. Is there anything that you feel the city can help in that particular function?
I do think the incubator is going to be the best first step. Several of my vendors have asked if that's something that's available here, especially folks who want to do home-based food products. Yeah. They typically require a kitchen in order to be certified, and they would like an incubator before they go through that long process. We have had a couple of vendors that go on to become downtown merchants, like Oregon Mountain Outfitters and Mew & Co. They both originated with the market. But I think the incubator is absolutely the best first step.
Okay. Anything else around incentivizing? I don't know, what that might look like.
I think that's something that we could probably get together and brainstorm on.
Have a discussion. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'd really like to see what that might look like, especially when you have a stack of applications and such. Again, thank you. Thank you to all your vendors. It really, I'm always very proud, and with your accolades especially, it's a national program, and really exciting what's to come for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thanks.
Just a quick note, this is our 50th anniversary.
Oh, wow. All right.
So we will be doing a celebration in September for that. Yeah, thank you for 50 great years.
Wow. All right, congratulations.
All right, so there are two partners that work with business development directly, and the first of which is Film Las Cruces. So Jonathan Sepp is going to be giving the presentation today, and he is Film Las Cruces' film liaison.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Mayor, Council, my name is Jonathan Sepp. Some of you may know me as Jonathan Foley, but I got married last year and took my wife's last name. It is a pleasure to be with you all today. Throughout this presentation, I will be going over our deliverables and metrics as it relates to our service agreement with the City of Las Cruces. Like I said, my name is Jonathan Sepp, but it says Foley there. My apologies. Let's see.
If you say it really fast, it could sound like Johnny Depp.
Right? My phone autocorrects to Johnny Depp all the time, or Jonathan Depp. First, I would like to note that I did jump the gun on two of the board members listed. Their involvement with the Film Las Cruces Board of Directors will be voted on this Wednesday. I am also excited to announce that we have a new employee with Film Las Cruces who is with us here today, Julie Thompson, if you want to raise your hand. We are very excited to have her. Aside from her specialization with nonprofit accounting, she will be handling the behind the scenes of our office. Film Las Cruces continues to be led by State Senator Jeff Steinborn and DACC Arts Department Chair Matt Burns. We have 5 main deliverables in which our metrics stem from. Develop, execute, and implement a promotional program. This primarily involves promoting and branding the city of Las Cruces as a film and media destination. We handle the film permits, process, approve, and manage them on behalf of the city of Las Cruces. And then we develop partnerships and continue to coordinate with local education institutes to create and grow a fully trained and local film workforce. In addition to that, we also have our film-friendly business program that lists all of the local support services available for film and television productions. And then finally, site location assistance within the city, and our online locations database is used to serve this function. Each of these deliverables and metrics associated with them, I will dive deeper throughout the rest of the presentation. So this is a snapshot of our deliverables and metrics tracking. The pandemic definitely put the entire film industry on hold for much of 2021. The rebound of this industry for Las Cruces did lag behind Albuquerque and Santa Fe, but is quickly gaining momentum. I will touch on this further in my conclusion of the presentation. Even with the COVID-19 hurdles, Film Las Cruces was able to track and achieve the majority of our metrics. Film Las Cruces has exceeded our targets in the service agreement for production spend, workadays, funding, and others. However, we did not reach our goals for film permits and production days. Inquiries, they are the lifeblood of any film office. These inquiries come from projects we are trying to land in the area, as well as projects preparing for production in Las Cruces. The primary way we lure projects to Las Cruces is through location packages. And these packages are customized directly towards the look and needs of their production. And once a production becomes interested in filming in the Las Cruces area, they will visit for a location scout. So we had 13 of those in fiscal year 21. And whether we played a role or not in landing the production in Las Cruces, we offer all of the productions active in our area with the ability to link them with local crew and local vendors. And so we have worked with, we've sent out crew and vendor information 35 to 38 times throughout the year. Film Las Cruces has increased our direct mailing list from 1,300 to 4,500 direct marketing, 1,300 to more than 4,500 film and media industry contacts. We continue to create eye-catching marketing and outreach materials. These include promotional videos that highlight the beauty and diverse locations throughout the city of Las Cruces, as well as pitch decks that explain the benefits of locating a production studio in Las Cruces. Like I mentioned, COVID-19 put a serious damper on our efforts to attract productions to the area. The majority of these numbers are credited to a feature film that took place at the latter end of fiscal year 21. We had about 388 worker days, 27 production days, and $473,000 in direct spend. Our social media and web presence continues to reach a very wide audience. We have reached over 233,000 eyes. We currently have over 290,000 video views, and we posted 220 times, and our webpage has been visited 66,000 times. Oftentimes, film and television productions have obscure needs and deadlines of yesterday. Not only is our social media platform a fantastic marketing tool, we also utilize it as a resource to connect those needs with the Las Cruces community. One good example of that is the film I previously mentioned was searching for a very specific year and look for a travel trailer. We were able to link them up with that resource in under an hour utilizing our social media platforms. Film Las Cruces is tasked with coordinating the filming permits for the city of Las Cruces, and we did process 3 of them last year. We continue to work very closely with Doña Ana Community College, New Mexico State University, Las Cruces Public Schools, and The Bridge. One key takeaway from our involvement with NMSU and DACC last year would be the development of a white paper that outlines opportunities for NMSU and DACC to be involved in the digital media and entertainment industry, as well as training future workers to be involved in that. Our online crew database has over 200 listings, and 128 of them are Las Cruces residents. Film Las Cruces hosted the Film Technicians Training Program for the final time in the 2020 fall semester. Unfortunately, the building was sold, and we did have to end our efforts with Film Las Cruces Studios. We are so happy that we were able to fulfill the need for studio space in Las Cruces and look forward to continuing our search for a purpose-built studio and studio company to manage and operate the facility. One new item that on this list is our acceptance into the DoD SkillBridge program. This program is an opportunity for service members to gain valuable civilian work experience through specific industry training, apprenticeship, or internships during the last 180 days of service. Our film-friendly business program has grown into a phenomenal resource for productions filming in our area, as well as assisting our ability to prove that Las Cruces has what it takes to properly serve these film and media projects. The two pictures I have included are new businesses that have developed over the last year. One is a grip and lighting company, and the other one is a transportation company. These are very specific companies that service the film and television industry. Our online location database currently has over 450 locations listed and photographed. We're able to show the many looks available Las Cruces has at a moment's notice. And before I conclude this presentation, I would like to touch on the bright future for the film and media industry in Las Cruces. We kicked off the fiscal year stronger than ever with a small TV series, multiple documentaries and docuseries, and one feature film that is currently wrapping up its last week of production right now. Since July 12th, there has been a project in production in Las Cruces every single day, even a few days with 3 filming concurrently. Film Las Cruces is also assisting one of the largest productions our area has seen, and I look forward to speaking about that once I've been given permission. With that, I thank you all for your support, and I am open to questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. Councilor Abeyta-Stube, Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Sett. I have a few questions on how you see, I know in Albuquerque, we're seeing lots of increases with the different Netflix and the different production companies there. Are we seeing any sort of interest in southern New Mexico due to this, or are we still kind of on a different pathway?
Absolutely. Albuquerque and Santa Fe's success is also our success. We do continue to get that trickle-down interest. I will say, unfortunately, it has geared a lot towards Film Las Cruces Studios, which is no longer available, but we have been working with economic development and other realtors in the area to identify a warehouse space that could be made available at a moment's notice for something like this. And then one thing I would like to touch on that, which is a bad and a good. So the entire state of New Mexico is booming with production right now like it has never been before. I have a friend who is starting a production next Monday, and he is having a very difficult time finding crew. A lot of the people who have tried to plant their feet in Las Cruces as film crew workers and make this their home base have decided to move to Albuquerque. I'm seeing a lot more people than in the past make that immediate move to Albuquerque instead of trying to make it work in Las Cruces for a little while. The good side of that is, like the production going on right now, they're willing to take a chance on more green filmmakers in Las Cruces. So we're seeing a lot more people in higher positions than they wouldn't normally be, giving them that extra push to be able to have a brighter future in the film and television industry.
Okay, great. That was going to touch on my second portion, which I know there's always a lot of issue with finding skilled crew. And then if we do have individuals that are trying to get into the union, they need to be working on certain types of productions. Have we seen any sort of changes with that? Or availability to work on those types of productions that are going to put them for success within the union, or are those individuals also going more up to Albuquerque as well?
So I do think that that is one of the reasons we've lagged behind Albuquerque and Santa Fe is the additional costs that are incurred because of the global pandemic. Film and television productions are still operating at a very high risk level, having different pods for different people where only certain crew members are supposed to be able to go there. There's a ton of testing, still mask requirements on set. So there's a lot of additional costs. And even bringing a union production to Las Cruces with the additional 5%, they still have to spend a bit more money than they would in Albuquerque. That's one of the reasons why we focus a lot on our location database and vendor database, so that we can show the productions that the more money that they're spending is going to be made up on screen because of the visual looks that Las Cruces can provide to them that Albuquerque and Santa Fe cannot. So it's this balance between the visual aesthetic and the money side of things. And so with the additional spend in COVID protocols, it has been made it a little bit more difficult to sell the Las Cruces area, but not impossible.
Okay. With that in mind, what areas are most requested beyond a studio here in Las Cruces, or which areas that are
Off the top of my head, I don't know that. One thing I can say is that the old Doña Ana County Courthouse has seen an uptick in use and interest. I do know why that is, but I can't really speak publicly about that. Something that had happened in a different prison location that was normally utilized is not anymore. But yeah, so that's something that's off the top of my head. I'd have to take a look back at my notes in previous location packages that I've sent out, but I'm happy to kind of pinpoint, what are the areas of interest for these film and television productions.
Okay. And are there anything that we should consider, like you said, beyond the studio itself, but what other opportunities should we be considering?
I think we're doing everything right at the moment. Obviously, there are probably some areas of improvement, but at the moment, I don't think I could speak to that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much, Mr. Sepp. I just have one question. I was very surprised to hear about the sale of the studio. How has that impacted business and recruitment?
We have lost some productions. There were some that were ready to go if we had a studio space available. As far as Film Las Cruces' mission goes, it hasn't really impacted us. It does make Las Cruces a bit more difficult sell, but the studio space that we opened was to fill a need, and that was kind of our organization going above and beyond our regular duties. So now we are just focusing on the regular stuff that we are contracted to do, and I think that we'll be reaping some of the benefits with productions that are focused more so on location filming as opposed to in studio.
Okay. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but glad you're rebounding from that. And so what's sort of the timeline for the vision of this new facility? Did you not talk about?
I touched on it in the fact that we are increasing our efforts. We do have some exciting things that are brewing with that, but I don't think I'm able to speak about that at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, she likes to try to get secrets out of you in person. Any other comments? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, and continue the great work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
And to touch on Councilor Bencomo's question, the Economic Development Department and City Manager's Office, as well as Film Las Cruces, has been in discussions with a potential production company that is I'll just say in California, looking to open another location in our area. So hopefully we'll have some good news about that in the future, hopefully. All right, so the last presentation we have is from Movida, and Davin Lopez, the president, wanted me to let you know that he is at a trade show. And so Eric Montgomery, the vice president of business development, is going to be stepping in.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Mesilla Valley Economic Development Alliance and what we've done for you over the last fiscal year. My name is Eric Montgomery. I'm the Vice President for Business Development with the Mesilla Valley Economic Development Alliance. There's branding for you. I'm going to stand this way. I apologize if I'm cutting anybody off, but I want to make sure I'm addressing everybody on council. Davin does send his apologies, but he is doing what he does best, and he is walking the trade show floor out at Outdoor Retailers. So we've already had some good conversations based on his presence just from today. Whenever we talk about the work that we do, it's always good for us to ground the discussion alongside our mission, because that's really the driving point forward. So Movita's mission, and I know all of you are aware of this, so this is more for the viewing audience, is to grow the wealth of Doña Ana County through the creation of economic-based job opportunities for its residents. So there's a lot there to it, but to whittle it down into a very basic approach, we focus on wealth growth. And what does that mean? We specifically look at new payroll and new household spending that the projects that we work on can bring back to the communities that we represent. We represent all of Doña Ana County. We are a regional entity by nature, originally birthed through the city of Las Cruces, but grown to be more regional through partnerships with the county, with NMSU and DACC, the school systems. And through the years, we've had between 90 and 110 private partners that have helped us achieve our mission on an annual basis. Economic base. We're very niche in how we focus and the type of economic development that we do. We focus on those industries that produce a product or service and export it outside the region, thereby bringing new dollars into the community to grow the pie for everyone. Job opportunities. Every year, we are measured by job creation. That is one of the core requirements, both for our board and for the work that we do with the city of Las Cruces. And then finally, residents. There is a very human nature to the work that we do, and we keep that in mind every single day, that the work that we do influences the economic opportunities of our neighbors. Movita is a 501c3 economic development organization. We're a full-service organization. We provide marketing and attraction services. We employ asset-based marketing. We can talk more about that later if you guys have questions on what that means. We also provide retention and expansion services. So we go out in the community and we meet with existing economic-based companies to talk about what they need to grow and expand their business throughout the community. We also provide economic development advisory services and capacity building services, where we're trying to identify what are those obstacles or barriers or opportunities for economic-based companies to grow within our community. Through the years, we've leveraged the funding provided by the city with funding by other public and private partners. Typically, that is about a 3-to-1 ratio for what is provided. We have diverse leadership, which includes members of the city of Las Cruces, Doña Ana County, NMSU, DACC, LCPS, and of course, our private partners. Staff has collectively about 50 years of experience in economic development work, specifically within Doña Ana County. But we're here today to talk about our accountability and metrics, and specifically what we have done for the city of Las Cruces. I'm proud to say that we excelled in all of the categories that the city put forth over the last year. So much so that the projects that were announced in this last fiscal year will represent, over the next 5 years, $80 million in new household spending, and will provide a tax-based ROI to the $200,000 that the city invested in us by 386%. It will grow by 386% to the tune of about $971,000 over the next 5 years as well. I'm also proud to announce that of the projects that we announced, when we compare them to last fiscal year, we actually announced 166 more economic-based jobs within the city limits than we did the same time last year. You can see that we excelled on all of our metrics: jobs created, feet on the ground, payroll generated, and even jobs out in the innovation and industrial park. We did fall short on capital investment, retention, and expansion, but we did all of this in the middle of the pandemic, when travel restrictions were in play and it was hard for facility managers to allow anybody from the outside into a facility. That really impacted our ability to get out and talk one-on-one with these companies. The capital investment is a little bit lower than where we would have liked to have seen it. Most of the investment that took place was in equipment and capital purchases. We always like to talk about our marketing, so I talked a little bit about what we do and how we focus on economic-based job opportunities. This is a really interesting slide, dead center, leads by source. There's two main components of this chart. One is the darker gray component, and the other is the bright, bold yellow. Those represent the two main lead sources for economic-based projects that look at Doña Ana County. And over the last year, almost 92% of those came from those two sources. I'm proud to say today that Mavita actually was the reason that we received over 50% of these leads in the last fiscal year because of the work that we had done. In fact, that work led to 78 individual companies asking for additional information through a process that we call PROs, potential recruitment opportunities. Best way to view this is like an RFI. It's a request for information from a company wanting a deeper dive into workforce, facility types, how do the incentives work, a cadre of information. This actually represented almost a 42% increase over the same time last year. Our marketing didn't stop in just discussions with companies. We also make an active pipeline approach every year, but we had to shift in the pandemic. Our marketing efforts are very relational, and so we like to have face-to-face conversations. In this type of work, a lot of things can get lost in translation if you only work in Excel spreadsheets and you're filling out forms on PDF. So in lieu of not being able to have that in-person conversation, we employed a digital marketing campaign. We maintained some of the general billboard marketing within the trade magazines. It's always important to maintain a presence in trade magazines because it gets the exposure for the geography out to that specific targeted audience. However, this year we sent over 225,000 targeted emails to a variety of specific industries, including outdoor recreation manufacturers, aerospace, specifically within the UAV components, and a number of other industries very beneficial to the city of Las Cruces. These emails included information on available real estate, quality of life components tailored to that specific industry. And we even talked about risk mitigation by geography, talking about our great climate and how we are essentially natural disaster averse when looking at numbers and other locations across the country. We also did over 90,000 individual impressions to C-level executives, decision makers within targeted industries using the LinkedIn in-mail campaigns. But in addition to doing that external marketing, it's important for us to focus on the companies that are in our backyard. So this year, Mavita met with 23 individual companies within the city limits. That represents roughly about 2/3 of all of the visits that Mavita did throughout Doña Ana County. And I should also note that this was the second highest number of visits for City of Las Cruces companies that we've done in the last 5 fiscal years. 11 of those companies actually sat down with us and said, well, if things pick up and change or continue on the path prior to the pandemic and some of the shutdowns, we actually expect that we're going to need to expand. They reported to us collectively about 550 new economic-based job opportunities and about $85 million in new capital investment that would need to happen as a result of their growth in the community. However, to get there, they had some identified needs that they would need to go through. Earlier today, you received packets with more specific information, so if you have further questions, I'll refer you to the packet. Of course, I'm happy to entertain a deeper dive into what these identified needs are, but we did want to break it down to show you what the big ticket items were. But why am I really here today? And it's this page in front of you. It's to talk about Movita's results. If you look at the top right, we have a chart for jobs created. If we were to address FY19 really quickly, that year was Stampede Meat. So if we were to take the 1,300 jobs that Stampede Meat brought to Doña Ana County out of the equation and off of the table, fiscal year 21 actually represents our best year in the last 6 fiscal years as an organization. And that is definitely courtesy of the investment that the city of Las Cruces put into Movita. While our square footage absorption is not as high as it has been in years past, we have had our second best year of capital investment throughout Doña Ana County than we've had in the last 6 years. Again, this is due to principally investments within equipment. But the point that I think that we are most proud of, and I go back to our mission statement, which is to grow the wealth of Doña Ana County. We'll look at the top right and the average wages. In this last fiscal year, the gap between the lines that represent the New Mexico minimum wage and the Doña Ana County per capita income, and the top of those bars is the work that Movita has done for the residents of Doña Ana County in attracting and retaining high-wage positions for their economic opportunities. In fact, if you take all of the projects over the last 6 fiscal years and you were to weight the average wages of each of those jobs, you come in at about $14.41 per hour. That alone represents, and again, that's over the last 6 fiscal years, but if we were to take today's Doña Ana County per capita income of $10.65 an hour, that's a 35% increase over what exists today. And so, in short, has Movita achieved its mission? Has Movita worked for the city of Las Cruces in helping to grow the wages? And the answer is yes. I stand for questions.
Very good, Eric. Great job. Questions from council? Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you so much, Eric. I was very happy to be at the reception last week where Devin went through a lot of these things, and I got to ask him a couple of questions. So I appreciated you all hosting us there as well. Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. You mentioned that there were 78 requests for information. About how many of those do you think returned to you for more information and deeper conversations?
So that's a very good question, Councilor Bencomo. Mr. Mayor, thank you for that. Our timeline and our process on responding back with companies is typically about 18 months. So when we're talking about where we had 17 requests for information, we're only just now going to start seeing some of those back. If I were to look at averages off the top of my head, I would say probably between 25 to 50% of those will have some type of follow-up communication based on the information that we provide them.
I am so sorry, Eric. Did I say 78 and you said 17?
I apologize. If I said 17, I meant 78.
Okay, I was like, wow, I heard that really wrong.
No. Of the 78 companies in which we responded to RFIs, we would probably expect between 25 and 50% of them to respond back with some additional follow-up.
Okay, great. And then I love this packet on here that you're welcoming these different companies to the Borderplex. Do you have data on these companies, how many New Mexican workers are hiring versus West Texas workers?
So of the companies that have announced, I believe Mass Markets has really been the one that has done the quickest ramp up right now. At our last report, Mass Markets was sitting over 100 individuals employed, all of them within Las Cruces. So of those, I would say the majority are New Mexico at this point, but we would have to do a follow-up at a later point once they get to full employment.
I would definitely be interested in looking at some of those numbers. And then you said Mass Markets, is that who?
Correct.
When did they announce, and then what's been the process like for them hiring those 100 workers?
I believe Mass Markets began hiring in September of this last year. They were obviously affected by the public health orders with their operations. Before they came into the market, there was a discussion about competition with other operations, both locally and in El Paso. And when they came in, they actually raised their wages for this particular geography so that they would be more attractive to employees. So at this point, I have not heard a tremendous difficulty in them getting. I think they're ramping up as appropriate and as expected, but we'll have to follow up with them as well.
And do you know what their wages are?
I believe that they sit at around $13 an hour.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to look at all that data, Eric, and certainly, I think we're hearing a lot of folks in town, a lot of restaurants and places like that struggling to hire. I'd be curious what their experience is out there. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you for your questions.
Anyone else? Councilor Sorg.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'd just like to comment on all four of these organizations that we're in partnership with. I think you're all doing a very good job, and I'm really glad that we have you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so Eric, as usual, it's a very impressive presentation, and knowing Davin like I do, if he didn't have the confidence in you, he wouldn't let you be doing that. So
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You do. In fact, you remind me of probably when Coach Jans was the assistant coach at Wichita State. The head coach was thinking, this guy could probably do his own thing too. So in fact, didn't you get an award earlier this year? So I think something 40 under 40, even though you look 30. What was this award that you got?
Thank you all around for those comments, Mr. Mayor. My children will disagree with you heavily on the age component. I was recognized by DCI. It's an international organization that every year recognizes economic developers in excellence throughout the world, and receive their top 40 under 40. So,
congratulations on that. And I just want to tell you, it's an incredible job to do, but to do it during COVID and to have one of your best years is just fantastic. We're very fortunate to have you and Davin as a great team, and we hope to see many more years. Maybe and I'm glad to see Doña Ana County eventually equal the city, which is good. They didn't in the past, but thanks probably to the commission and Fernando. But nonetheless, great job, great return on our investment. I think a lot of people, regardless of where they work, live in Las Cruces because of they just do. I know a lot of them that have set up shop in Santa Teresa, but they'll live here and they'll provide us the much needed revenue as well. So again, congratulations on your award and great presentation and continued success in Movida. I remember when Mayor Smith started it in 1993, I think, 93, 94, and Fernando was the first director. And just throughout all the years, and I think, you've been around about 10 years with Movida, and Davin maybe a few years after that. I think it's that consistency, that continuity that has led to the successes that you all are having. So again, I'm glad to see that, and congratulations, and I'm glad we're able to, and I appreciate my colleagues on the council for their support, because, it's, a lot of times when businesses go to Santa Teresa and you think, wow, wait a minute, I thought, but then a lot of times there's some years that they all come here. I remember we were on a roll, we had 3 or 4 here, and then of course the county was grumbling a little bit. So, it all works out in the wash. So again, congratulations.
Mayor, if I could take an opportunity really quick to just thank the city for their continued investment in Mavita, for the great partnership that we've had. Elizabeth has truly been a great representative to the city and a great partner for us in the work that we do. Thank you.
Sure. Councilor Swart?
Oh, I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor, that Eric was trained in the city as a city employee some time ago. So we can take some credit for him.
Was that the case? I guess I vaguely remember.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Sorg is correct. He's got an amazing memory. I had a 2-year stint with the Economic Development Department or section at that time, right before Mavita, and was actually part of the 40th anniversary of the Farmers and Crafts Market downtown. So,
Very good. All right, good job.
Thank you.
I think that's it. Oh, Councilor Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Eric. Apologize for missing part of that presentation there, but been talking with you and David over the last couple of weeks over some of the potentials for the community solar projects and the interest in investment in that area. And so I know that you guys are hustling in all these different sectors, and I have been just incredibly impressed with the growth of the organization, the professionalization of the organization over the years. And so as far as I know, this is a tremendous value add for the city's investment. Our return on investment, I think, is terrific. And so thank you. And to the mayor's point, the stability of having you and Davin kind of tag teaming this is really important. And the fact that Davin is an outdoor retailer when we're trying to grow our outdoor recreation economy shows me that you guys are looking in every little corner to bring industry to Las Cruces. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councilor. Okay, I think that's it. I think you got enough accolades for the day.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Vince, we don't normally take public comment, but I'll let you say a couple minutes. Is that okay? All right. Just need you to state your name, please.
My name is Vince Jeffers, and I want them to be very successful, definitely. But I also want accountability on it, and I don't think we see that very much. It's nice that they're coming here and giving you a review, this is what we did, but there's some things that could be done better, and I just want to address a couple of them. First off, with Film Las Cruces, that's very important to me to see that be successful. That building didn't have to be sold. There are people who didn't keep up their end of an agreement, and it's not right. Dwayne Green, when you look at the entire scheme of things, when I say there's fraud and you guys just are dismissive, it doesn't matter. There was fraud with that building. It's one of the many buildings. And you guys used a nonprofit like Film Las Cruces to get what you want out of it. And it's not fair. To me, I don't think it's fair. As far as you could have a post-production facility, it's cleaner. They could work with the game development company. Having Jeff Shyster or Jeff Steinborn being one of the members, it's an insult when you really know the damage. This is evidence, if you wanted to ever look at evidence. I came here and I said Bill McCain did the wrong thing. This right here is evidence. If you wanted to look at it, my address, someone else's name. These guys had a program. You could apply for this. I applied for it. Well, we'll reimburse you, but you go ahead and pay your tuition. I did that. They didn't reimburse. And then they came around and said, well, you can get a student loan. I don't want a student loan. They did that to me in 2008. They did that to me in 1991. Forced to pay back loans that I didn't get. They did. And the fraud comes right here. Each time when you change someone's name without their consent, without their knowledge, you force acquisitions of property. It's not right. There has to be some sort of accountability. Anytime you want to really look at each and every one of those transactions in depth, you can. I've got enough info. You can look at it if you want it.
Okay, so I want to make sure that Las Cruces reporter, Mike McDivitt, has your contact information. Vince, you've been coming here for 3 years, and they have yet to produce anything, so let's just see. Okay, well, we're good. I'll let Mike do it. He's the government watchdog. Yeah, okay, Elizabeth, anything else?
No, Mayor, City Council, thank you so much,
All
and
right,
thanks
well-
to our partners.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, so next we're going to go to the ARPA funding, and Natalie Green's going to kick that off. Okay, looks like Amy Johnson-Batsford is your sidekick.
Just get myself organized. All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Natalie Green with Economic Development. Sorry. Again, Natalie Green with Economic Development for the record. So the discussion before you today is on the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding. Specifically, we'll be discussing the $10.4 million that was set aside for community and economic development initiatives. The other items, as you remember, have already been discussed as part of the July 12th work session. In terms of the community and economic development, while all ARPA funding has to meet one of these or all of these objectives, but community and economic development initiatives should specifically support the immediate economic stabilization of households or businesses or address systematic issues that contribute to the unequal impact as a result of the pandemic. Staff did go out for public comment on the potential uses for the $10.4 million. We received approximately 50 emails. We held 2 public meetings, which were attended by at least 9 community members. Those meetings were held on the 28th and 29th of July, and that public comment period ran from July 19th to July 30th. We advertised that through a press release, the paper, on our city website, and through our various email listservs. Again, the themes around the public comment was we had a lot of positive feedback on the GBI or the UBI, so that's the Universal Basic Income, support for affordable housing and rental assistance, food insecurity and food insecurity infrastructure, some child programming around poverty, community schools, again, substance abuse and mental health, and equity in decision-making. And we also had some input about the time to make decisions around ARPA. So a call for not only additional input, but additional time to allocate those funds. Staff is asking for either direction or confirmation on some specific items, and I'll cover them more in detail further on in the presentation. But specifically, we're asking for some feedback on the applicants. So the way the RFP currently stands, we're allowing all 501c organizations. So that's not specific to 501c3s like we normally do. We'll allow things like 501c6s to do, that's like the chambers of commerce, to do some business programming. We'll also allow public institutions that provide direct service, so things like Arrowhead or the 3rd District Court or other quasi-governmental organizations. We're also asking for some feedback on the number of submissions from a single applicant, the minimum and maximums. Staff is proposing around 250 as a minimum and 2 million as a maximum. And the reason for that is really just staff capacity. So when you're talking about $10 million at $250,000 each, that's 40 contracts versus, 4 contracts for the 2 million, or 5 contracts for the 2 million. We'll also cover the community evaluation process, the scoring matrix, and I have a question on match and leverage. We'll cover council's tolerance for risk. So, and again, I have another slide, and then timeline. As a reminder, ARPA is federal pass-through funding, so it does have all the requirements that we are required to comply with. So when we submitted our certifications to receive the funding, we committed to the federal government that we are going to comply, and in turn make all our subrecipients who receive this funding also comply with those federal regulations. So when staff developed the RFP, we developed them with these things in mind. So it is a notice of funding availability. We've included sort of a merit review process, a risk-based and mitigation process. We also have to ensure that anyone we give funding to can meet the performance and financial monitoring, the internal controls, the audit requirements, and the insurance requirements. Let me just make sure. Sorry, I took extra notes this time. So there's a whole host of significant regulations. The most specific one is 2 CFR 200, so that's the Uniform Administrative Requirements. I won't bore you with those regulations, but I've had a lot of fun reading the book. The evaluation process, staff is proposing a competitive proposal process, so the intent is to have a very objective, transparent process that allows us to review, again, those performance measures and those risk factors as outlined by the regulation. We are proposing a staff review committee that's made up from about 8 to 10 individuals. We will have some voting and non-voting members. The non-voting members are specifically myself and Amy Bassford, who will be responsible for federal compliance and ensuring compliance with ARPA. The committee will score those proposals individually, so they won't come together as a group until it's in a public setting. And that specific process is outlined in page 8 of the application that Christine handed out to you guys. So at a public setting, we'll allow the applicants to give a presentation, and it's really to tell us or tell the committee what doesn't translate about the proposal on paper. There's always those outstanding issues. I call it the pathos argument, right? So ethos, logos, pathos. So your pathos argument, the committee can answer any clarifying or ask any clarifying questions that didn't, again, translate on paper. We'll collect final scores at a separate meeting. Those scores and those rankings will be shown to the selection committee, and at that time they can make final recommendations. One of the items we're asking for direction on is if council would like those projects to go back out for public comment, just so we can get some opinions from our community members on those specific recommended projects, and then it'll come to you for council approval. If you turn to page 6 and 7 of your application, we can review the scoring matrix. So the scoring matrix ranges from 8 to 80. As a total score, and then each individual item is between 1 and 10 points. We ask, when we collect all the scores from the committee, we remove the high and low, and the idea is that no one committee member can influence the entire scoring process. So the highest score and the lowest score are removed, and then we take the total of the rest. So under the project justification, we're asking for very clear objective targets, clear rationale on how it responds to the pandemic and the other available uses of ARPA. Under compliance or meeting city goals, the city and the council has invested a substantial amount of time in different planning documents, so we want to ensure that first day of school. We want to ensure that whatever projects we're funding are in alignment with that, and we can implement some of those already identified needs and goals. Is there a measurable impact? So once in a lifetime money should have a significant community impact. It is a requirement of the ARPA guidelines and of the 2 CFR Part 200 that we have performance goals and indicators and milestones, and that we are measuring projects in a way that we can have shared lessons and adopt best practices. The budget, is it justified? Again, staff and the council, I'm sure, sees themselves as stewards of taxpayer dollars. We have to ensure that there's appropriate cost allocations. The one question I do have for council is around match and leverage. We have weighted in-kind match or cash match for different projects. I don't know, again, that speaks to the tolerance for council. Is that something you want to see weighted higher or lower? It's easier to spend someone else's money than your own. So do we want nonprofits to have any, or potential partners to have what I call skin in the game, right? So duplication, we do have to screen for duplication of effort. The ARPA guidelines do say that we should increase, there needs to be either if it's an established program, we should see an increase of services or expanded programming. The timeline and feasibility. So there are deadlines for ARPA. We need to have all the funding obligated by 2024 and all expended by 2026. We have asked the question if the project is contingent on other funding. Again, if we get 2 years down the road and they haven't expended any funds, is that a concern for the committee or for council? Organizational capacity and history. So that is based off the risk assessment in the guidelines. So as part of the risk assessment, staff needs to look at financial stability, qualified staff, the history of performance. We did include the ability for new programming or new projects to apply. However, they do have to expand on their experience and performance or previous experience. And again, the thought behind that is, can they respond to cost increases? Can they demonstrate compliance with federal funding? Because of the amount of funding we're talking about, any organization that expends more than $750,000 within a federal fiscal year will be subject to a single audit. So can organizations incur that expense? It's not a cheap expense. It can run anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000. So we want to make sure that all our partners are financially feasible. The timeline. So we've completed the public comment period. Today's is the work session. Depending on the direction from council, whether that's to move forward with this RFP process or not, we could potentially bring a resolution forward in September, and then that'll sort of dictate the timeline from there. Again, there's more additional opportunities for public comment, both and a public process. So again, it's intended to be a very open, transparent, objective process. The committee will only meet in public settings. The RFP is subject to council adoption, and then the recommendations are again subject to council adoption and comment. So I will stand for questions.
Thanks, Natalie. Just to clarify a couple things and then see if the council has any comments. Did you say any applicant who receives more than $750,000 will undergo an audit?
So any applicant who expends $750,000 in federal fundings in a single fiscal year is subject to a single audit.
And then they pay for that audit, and it can range anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000.
Correct.
Okay. And so they can't use ARPA funding for that?
They have to cost allocate, again, Mr. Mayor, Natalie Green for the record, they have to cost allocate those administrative expenses, just like the city does. So, for example, my staff works on multiple grants, so I can't bill all their paid time to a single grant. I have to spread it across their different grants.
Okay.
So the single audit should not all be billed to the city.
Can you go back to the screen where it had the match leverage? Budget match leverage. You know, I would like to see, it doesn't have to be a huge amount, but I like to think, I would think that, I mean, like, let's take, for example, a house. Almost no bank will lend money 100% on a house. They usually want 3, 4, 5%, maybe 10%, I don't, you know, something to that effect. And so, you know, like you said, they want a little bit of skin in the game, and I think that I'm not saying that they have to, but I think if there are some that are willing to, I believe that they should probably be scored a little bit higher. It's my opinion. So, okay, with that, I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Councilman Como? I took it that you wanted to speak, but, you know.
Yes, I'm just processing,
It's a lot.
Mayor.
Okay.
I may have a second round of questions, but here's my first. First of all, Natalie, I don't know who the dream team was on this, but this is really well thought out. So thank you very much. I just want to say that. A couple of questions. Is there any, like, projects that may come through a fiscal sponsor? Is that allowable?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, yes, we will allow projects to have a fiscal sponsor, especially if it's a new organization that lacks that capacity.
And then you said 750,000 in federal funding, it does just federal funding, it's not a nonprofit that makes, right? Because the New Mexico guideline is if you make more than 500, you bring in more than 500,000, you have to do an audit every year. You're saying federal funding specifically.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, so most nonprofits should get an audit every year. However, the regulation specifically for federal funding, which includes ARPA, is that if they expend more than 750, they're subject to a single audit, which is a more intense level of an audit. It reviews all their policies and procedures, their internal controls. It's even down to how they handle their mail.
Wow, interesting. Okay. For the staff review committee, have you thought about who those members are yet? And if not, how you think you'll select them?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, I have proposed a potential committee. It is made up of various departments and then different levels across that department. So right now I have 9 of the 10 potential members. The chair of that is proposed to be Mr. Ikani Tamopio. We also have the performance manager out of the city manager's office. I've asked 1 member of quality of life, a member of finance. I have 2 housing development coordinators, an analyst out of the budget department, and then I have 2 potential individuals out of community development. And again, grants, myself, and legal may be on advisement, but they'd be all non-voting on the bottom part.
Did you present this and I totally missed it?
No.
Oh, thank God. I thought I'm losing my mind today. Okay. Thank you, Natalie. This looks like a great list, actually. I think those are really good departments to have selected to move forward. So will each of these members of this committee review applications individually and then you will come together to review them?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, how we have, and if you go to the actual scoring matrix, we ask the committee to score each application first before they come to the presentation day. So they'll have an initial score. And then the presentations, again, we ask those nonprofits, stuff gets lost in translation, so it's really the opportunity for those applicants to tell us what's missing or what didn't exactly get across. And then the committee can ask any clarifying questions that didn't exactly, again, translate through paper, because that doesn't always happen. So they can adjust their score, but at the end of presentations, they need to submit all their scores to the staff liaison. And then we'll come back likely a week later, and then we'll review those scores as a group. But the committee will only meet in a open public process, probably here in council chambers.
Okay, and just help me understand this. You're inviting every single applicant to come give a presentation or only like finalists?
We haven't limited to just finalists, just because.
That makes sense.
But it really is dependent. I may have to come back to council if we get like 1,000 applications. Then I may have to reevaluate the process. But my hope is that we have a reasonable number of applications that we can hear presentations from all the applicants.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. We'll just say a couple comments. I think that I'm excited about the public input that came through, especially from nonprofit leaders in our community who I think have been at the forefront of combating poverty for many years, support a guaranteed basic income. And I will actually agree with the mayor around the skin in the game question you posed, Natalie. I don't necessarily think people need to be docked off points, right, but potentially higher scoring for people who are bringing in some investment already. And I agree with the staff's recommendation on the budget, the 250,000 to the 2 million. I think from our last conversation, I remember us talking about, visionary and bold ideas that could really make a really big impact right now as we're in this, facing this pandemic still. And the majority of people who've been, disproportionately impacted have been families that were already vulnerable. So I think this to me feels right as well. Thank you so much, Natalie. I may have more questions later. This was a lot of really great info. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, and then Councilor Betastubi.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you so much, Natalie, and your staff for putting this together. I know you had, you really took a lot of time to do this. I'm concerned about the time frame. I think it's too fast. And I'd like to see it go into next year. I think I'm sure for you and for the nonprofits, given what's happening currently, we're still not out of COVID. I think so many of them are transitioning. There's issues with recruiting and retaining their employees and whatnot. I guess my motto is go big or go home. I think we have to be very specific, and I'd like to see more data in terms of the areas that I think we need to focus on in terms of distributing that kind of money. And I'm thinking about poverty, substance abuse and addiction programs that we have. I'm sorry, I don't think you can hear me very well. Sorry, Mayor. Gaps and barriers in the service. And so those, and housing, for me, whatever we do, whatever programming that we give funding to, housing needs to be at the forefront of that, because if it isn't, all this other, all these other programs and services that we're doing are going to be in vain. And so those for me are big, big issues. The other thing is, let's see, I wrote some. I have a copy that has highlighted stuff. Does everybody? Yes. Okay. The eligible 501c organizations. I'm sorry, and I stepped out. You may have said that already. Can you talk to me when you say eligible 501c organizations? What specifically are you meaning?
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Candida, so we did not limit the application to 501c3s. We are allowing the other 501s. The example I used was the chamber. They're 501c6s, so we wanted to ensure there was an opportunity for other types of organizations to apply, especially if it was around economic development.
I love it. Yes, 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 yes. This would be a great opportunity to help some of those programs that provide, workforce reintegration, those things that we have great difficulty giving funding already. I'd really love to see, as part of my fourth category is around economic development, workforce reintegration. I think that's really important. Let's see. I made some notes as you were talking, but give me a moment.
And in the meantime, Mr. Mayor, I did put the items that are highlighted. They match this general screen that you can give direction on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you need council direction on that? Yeah. Okay.
Or confirmation that we're on the right track.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I just think we need to use data for sure to determine where we're going to provide the funding to. And these, for me, housing, poverty, economic, building individual wealth, I think is really important. And housing, Natalie. And so I'd rather start with, okay, what are we doing poorly on? Where could we really address the biggest needs? And for me, it's more about gaps looking at our gaps and barriers and filling that need with this funding. That's all the questions for now, Mayor. I knew I forgot something. I'm concerned about the people that are sitting on this SAC committee or this committee. I also feel that maybe I'd like to see a representative from the Telshore committee, the Health and Human Services Committee. Those are folks that have a lot of experience in nonprofit work, in social determinants of health. I mean, I'm not suggesting that the people that you've selected do not. I just feel like you need to have at least a representative from that committee on your SAC committee. I don't think you're calling it that, though. Are you calling it the SAC committee or not?
The committee. It works.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Natalie. Those are all my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, I think I could support you as far as you think it might be moving too quick or you want to extend a little bit further. I don't know if I'd extend it too long, maybe an extra month or so, give or take a month and a half. But, because I think that it forces and it tells the others, hey, we need to work on this, get this plan done, keep things moving. And so that's my comment on that. Everything else I agree with you on.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I just know what it's like to write grants, especially around. They know they're in this. They do this all the time, but these dates feel a bit. November, December. Those are holidays. I just think we need to be very mindful of the time frame, and I agree. We can't extend it, several months, but I'm not sure that these dates are the most appropriate moving forward.
Okay. Councilor Beta-Stubbe.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Natalie. Kind of piggybacking off some questions about our staff review committee, we do have an oversight committee as well, and it might be appropriate to have maybe a non-voting member be on that, or I just know that there's going to be a lot of public scrutiny on even how we're choosing, and so I really appreciate the transparent process that you're trying to lay out, and if there's any ways that we can add any individuals that can help with that process, I think that would be good. And for the other items, I do actually really like a lot of the metrics that you've laid out here. One of the biggest items that I've said is I really would like to see how these projects integrate with systems that we already have. Are they closing gaps in any services? Are they helping out? And I think that really helps decide how they're useful for the community. And so you have a few metrics in here with the community impact, and I think even duplication that help with that process. I'm not sure how that's going to be presented, but I think that's really great for us to see how that really fits in line with the types of systems we have. And I think that is all for now. Like I said, I really appreciate all the work that you've done. I'm in agreement with Councilor Bencoma as well with the other metrics. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. So regarding, the Oversight Committee, when you were saying that, you weren't necessarily thinking a council member that sits on the oversight, but rather like...
And we're ex officios as council, but one of the individuals that sits on it as a voting member, or, we have staff representation that attends, so it might be important even if we couldn't get somebody on the SAC committee, perhaps getting report outs to that committee, the oversight on how the process is going might also be useful as well.
No, I like your idea. I just wanted to make sure, because I was going to say if you put a council member on there, then they may have to recuse themselves. And,
no.
You don't want to do that. So, okay. You're thinking maybe like Viola or someone like that, possibly.
I'm not sure if Viola can, but...
From the outside. I got you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, Jack Ekman would be good. So, Councilor Sorg and then Councilor Vasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Natalie. I can see this is, while it's different, unusual, and a lot of work, I'm sure, the comments I've heard from the council so far, I can agree with. And the list that you have here of potential places where this funding could go to is good for me. That's the ones on slide number, just so we have it all together here.
Councilor, can I have you get your
I'm
mic-
sorry. I got to look here and pull it in closer. Yeah, on slide 4, I agree. I'm okay with, I should say. A couple questions I have here, just so I understand how this is going to work. Will the council be the final decision maker on each RFP?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Sorg, so the committee will vote on recommendations to council. That council packet will come to you for final approval. It will include the scores and ranking, the recommendation, the minutes from all the meetings, and if you want to see each individual RFP, I can also include those in the packet, but more to come, I suppose.
So it'll be just in one resolution then, for everything, for all 10 million plus?
My staff recommendation, depending on the number of projects, we will probably bring those back individually,
Okay.
especially if some of them are more controversial based on the public comment we receive.
Okay. Yeah, I would tend to go that way, but I'm not making that for sure. But anyway, so in the budgeting of the proposals, you were talking about some matching funding. I would assume that would include some in-kind type of matching. True? Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Sorg, we did include in-kind services as a potential source of match. So a lot of nonprofits can match that with staff that's already hired, with MOUs with other nonprofits. We didn't want to limit it to in-cash match.
Right, okay. So that if an organization has staff, instead of taking funding out of this pot of money to pay staff to do the project, they could do the project on their own money. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have some concerns about certain types of projects here, or at least one anyway. That's the GBI, UBI possible. I would like to see certain things in that project. So how would we handle that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Sorg, today's discussion is really on the RFP process. So as part of the RFP process, assuming a nonprofit applies for the GBI, they would have to fill out the application like any other organization applying for funding. So it would go through that risk evaluation component by the committee, and then the committee would have to recommend that to council for funding. I will say that any contract over $75,000 has to come back for council approval, so you'll also see those particular projects, and they'll have, they're actually mandated by regulation to have performance measures and objectives, and then criteria to monitor.
Well, yeah, in fact, that's pretty much what I'm looking for too. Say a project like this, I would like to see it have a report after it's finished, after the money is spent, and that report showing things like their introduction and their, I'll go scientific on you here, hypothesis to begin with, and the methods in which they're going to use the money, how are they going to use it, in other words, report the results of what happened, and any conclusion they can come to after it's done. So that's what I would like to see in this particular one. And as far as the rest of it, part of the project goes, I have some details, but I'll be looking for something like that. I think it's going to be in line with what probably people will want to put in their project too. So I just wanted to know where that would, what part of the process that would be in.
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Sorg, all projects have to go through a review of risk, and that's one of the reasons I asked council for their tolerance of risk. So we have to, or the committee has to have a place or a framework for evaluating the risk before award. So that's how the RFP was designed, so we can evaluate those different risks. And then we're also required to mitigate some of those risks as part of the contract development. Again, I won't speak to any specific projects because I'm not on the review committee, but again, everyone, we anticipate them filling out the application and answering the questions. And I didn't cover the questions, but if you go through the applications, the question tied to those scoring matrix the scoring criteria. And number one is the project justification. And we do ask for significant detailed information. We're asking, again, for that best practice, research, data-driven, and then that strong rationale and significance that it clearly responds to COVID or its negative economic impacts.
Okay, that sounds good to me so far, but we'll see what comes out in the end, though. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. I think your comments about, I think it's fair to say that the city, the information we get from the committee will be a recommendation, and they're going to have the numbers on that. But I also believe that we should have those that qualify, even a simple 3 or 4 sentence paragraph of what each one was wanting to do, so that theoretically, if council wanted to pull one of those that maybe didn't make the committee's recommendation but met the council's wish, then we can do that. Okay, so this is a different type of...
Yeah, that's actually what I was asking for, and I didn't say it too much.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
no problem. And then, but what I don't want to see are those that don't make that they're not a 501c3. There could be someone who just, says, hey, I want to apply, and they don't have the credential. Well, then we don't really need to be with that. But I think anyone that meets the minimum qualifications that theoretically could be funded, but maybe didn't score as well, should still, even if it's just a few sentences, like, Acme Food Company wanted $100,000 to provide low-income meals to schools in certain areas of the city. Just something so you have see it and the amount, and okay, well, is that possible?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we will include so we actually ask on the second page of the application for a quick project summary that's used to describe your project in official documents. So we'll include that in the work session. I will remind the council and staff that this will be an official procurement process once it's adopted. So once that RFP is out on the street, so to speak, we'll all kind of be in mum's the word, so.
Okay, great. Was there I'm sorry, Councilor Vasquez, and then Councilor Pincombe.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Natalie. This is a really well put together scoring matrix and evaluation system for some really important investments in our community. The first question I have is around the capacity, organizational capacity category. I know that we are giving lower scores in this matrix to an applicant that demonstrates lower capacity or ability to implement and oversee the proposal. I think we just should be a little careful about that one because it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing for an organization that might be really great at providing a service but doesn't have the existing capacity to expand. If in their budget, they're budgeting for that additional capacity, I would hate to knock that applicant down on their score since it would be these funds that they would need to increase capacity if they have a proven record of delivering a particular service. And the reason I say that is that it may score our larger organizations with bigger budgets to the top inadvertently when there may be smaller organizations that may be able to deliver a specific service but may have smaller staff or not as big of a budget. I'm not sure how that might be fixed or how that might be worked on, but I just wanted to point that out.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Vasquez, so it does, the highest rated score is high compliance, or it could be a new organization with extensive experience in service provision. So we're not limiting to established nonprofits. They could be a new nonprofit that has, again, extensive experience. Although, again, the federal regulation, as noted in this slide, does ask us to look at these particular issues when evaluating capacity, and that's going to be the financial stability of the organization, the quality of their management systems. So do they have internal controls, policies, and procedures? Do they have a history of performance? Again, I've accounted for someone who may not have that history of performance, but they have extensive experience in service provision. It does ask us to look at any reports or findings from their audits, and then their ability to implement statutory requirements. I wish I could be more flexible. Unfortunately, again, it is federal pass-through funding, so not only do we have to comply with these regulations, we have to ensure that our nonprofits comply with those. And anytime we accept federal funding, it comes with a whole host of requirements, and down to wearing your seatbelt. One of the new regulations says that we have to ensure our subrecipients and contractors are telling their subcontractors to wear their seatbelts and not text while driving. So that means we need to have a policy in place for how we do that with our nonprofits. So it's an interesting dilemma.
Thank you, Natalie. Well, that explanation, oddly enough, puts me at ease a little bit, just because there's no flexibility. It's pretty rigid in what we can and can't do, and so I appreciate the explanation there, and completely understood in terms of how we're going to define capacity. The other question is around the goals, the city's goals and priorities as established by our three big plans, our strategic plan, Elevate Las Cruces, and or the consolidated plan. I'm just wondering if there happens to be a project justification for a need in our community that doesn't align with those plans because perhaps we didn't complete those plans thinking about how a pandemic might factor into any one of those strategic goals. And so I'm not suggesting that we change that category, but perhaps in an explanation to the judging committee or judging panel, it may be important to note that there may be extraneous needs that are not identified in those strategic plans but have arisen as a response that the city must have to do to mitigate the impacts of COVID. So just wanted to flag that. Although I'm sure housing and food insecurity and childcare and any number of things can fit within the city plans. I just wanted to point that out because it is we're all responding to an emergency rather than trying to fit something into our existing plans. Other than that, I look forward to seeing the project proposals. I think this is a terrific matrix, and I'm really hoping that this can make it out to our service providers and our nonprofit community, and because it's expanded to 501c, different categories of 501c's, I'm assuming churches and chambers of commerce and other organizations that are not 501c3s will be able to apply as well.
They will be, although they do have to meet the organizational capacity, compliance with federal regulations. Part of the certifications, and just to note, I'll read a couple of them. There's stuff around civil rights and fair housing, anti-discrimination, lobbying, Hatch Act, again, that seatbelt and text driving. Or texting while driving, and then of course the biggest one is going to be the financial regulations. So yes, so they can apply, but they also have to be compliant with federal regulations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Before we get to Councilor Bencomo, so kind of along the lines of what Councilor Vasquez was asking. So earlier, Natalie, we talked about match funding and how we maybe put a little bump in that. Is there anything, let's say, organization wants to do community solar and says, hey, listen, I'm going to provide 25% reduction in the household's utility costs, so it's actually saving the consumer some money. Is there some type of a matrix do you have for that there may be something that saves the consumer money? And if so, is that something council wants to increase or put in to help, because if there's an organization or item or something that someone can have and it saves the household $200-300 a month, I mean, I think that's good.
Mr. Mayor, I would argue that the community impact, again, it demonstrates a clear and significant impact and it has a specific measurable evaluation plan. Proposed impact on the community is quantifiable and substantial. So I think it would fall. We can consider right now I have the match and leverage weighted between 1 and 25%. We can lower that to a smaller dollar amount if that's the council's desire, but I think
I think as long as you incorporate, i.e. saves consumer money, I think that lets the committee know that, hey, this is something here that the consumer, benefits. I mean, it's if it saves them $200 or $300 a month, it's like giving them $200 or $300 a month. We're good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next would be Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to my colleagues for the great questions and comments. Natalie, back on the risk assessment, I'm sorry, I forget what you keep calling it. Risk something?
Risk or capacity?
That's on page 8, right? Is that what I'm looking at?
Good question. Let me see. So it's risk, again, can be a number of things, so it's covered in a number of comments. We do ask, if you're talking about the acknowledgement of required assurances, is that the page? We are, as part of the RFP process, notifying our potential partners what's going to be required up front. The last thing we would want is for them to apply, get to contract time, and realize they can't meet some of those guidelines and performance measures. So I have noted at least 2 CFR Part 200, that's, again, the biggest compliance measure that we have to meet. But the risk mitigation is going to be made up of multiple questions. Specifically, question 9, applicant qualifications. So we're asking them to summarize the organization's experience, who's going to be working on their projects, what is their experience. The other thing is the organization's operating budget. As part of the attachments, if council wants to give direction on that, as part of the applications, we are asking nonprofits to submit their most recent audit or financial statements. We're also asking them to submit 1 page or less than 1 page resumes of their executive directors, their financial directors, anyone who will be paid by the funding. And that should be the last page of your application packet.
Okay. Yeah, you had asked for our feedback on the risk assurances. I just wasn't sure what that looked like what you were looking for. But I will say, I mean, as somebody who also runs a nonprofit, these are pretty standard. I think people will be used to having to provide this kind of information, especially for the larger grants. So I'm not sure if you've received the information that you're looking for from us on there, but please let me know. And then just on I wanted to comment on Mayor Pro Tem's concern about the timeline. I guess I'm more of in the belief that, to me, there feels like there's urgency in getting this economic relief money out, given that we're in an emergency. And I think our partners, especially service providers, absolutely know, like there's qualitative and quantitative data that is telling us the gaps in our community and the gaps that were made even larger by the pandemic and who were impacted. I think our community members know that. I think we know that. Mayor Pro Tem, you run an incredible resiliency leaders, right, that I think are just keenly aware about what the issues are in our community. And so for me, something I really appreciated Councilor Vasquez did last year actually was when he really was like, look, this El Paseo Solano committee, I want to get it done quickly. And it's something I've learned in my short time here that sometimes local government can move a little bit slow. And I love local government, okay? Don't get me wrong, but it can move a little bit slow. And I just feel like the level of urgency that the pandemic has created for people who are already vulnerable and this incredible, this is good government at work. American Rescue Plan Act is good government at work, and I want to make sure that we keep that rolling. And, I like the clean January 1st, 22 project start date, perhaps between maybe the playing within the dates between now and then could work in terms of allowing people more time to think about projects. But I like that clean start date, especially because it's the holidays, especially because people continue to struggle. So perhaps it's, between now and that December date that you can play around with, but I like this January 1st start time. And, I will say that the other thing is that we've been talking about ARPA funds for, I don't know, since April, May, I can't totally remember, right? And I know that the last time we had a work session, perhaps there was some confusion in the community about how we would, be distributing this money. But I think members of our community have absolutely been thinking about how do we apply for these funds and what do we put forth that is visionary and has a big impact. So I would hate to see that January 1st be pushed back even more. But like I said, perhaps it's the in-between dates that can be played with. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, again, the strategic plan, Elevate, and the consolidated plan were all adopted by council. They all have robust work plans. The consolidated plan specifically focuses on those gaps that we have in services to our low to moderate income populations. Elevate was, again, a citywide project that was at a 21-month development. So I just want to make sure that we respect the investment that you all have made in outlining some of those community-wide goals. Your city council strategic plan, the community prosperity section has really robust information around attainable housing, wealth development, economic development. So again, that's the thought in having projects have at least some alignment with those already established plans.
Excuse me, I just want to comment one thing. So all of us here, including Councilor Flores, who's absent, she's out of town, by the way, I'm sure you know, have dealt and have worked extremely through difficult times and have really learned a lot in this COVID era. I really think, as you all know, we know Councilor Sorg and Councilor Vasquez have chose not to run for re-election, and we have another councilor who's up for election, and so it's possible, we know we're going to have at least two, possibly three, but council members. So I think, in all fairness, because all of you have worked and you know the community, I'm not saying that the new people who come on board won't, but they won't have that connection that you all have had these last 16, 17 months, especially during the COVID era. I think at the very minimum, regardless of where we move, that the council vote needs to come before these two gentlemen leave office. So that's at the very minimum. Okay? It's not too far from there. And then if the start date is January 1, okay. But at least that is the case. Because if you recall, there was a situation when it could have been voted on a zoning, and they punted and gave it to you and Councilor Bencomo, Councilor Betestuvi, and then you had your first meeting, and you had a fast track and had to learn, and we had to hold a couple more meetings so you could understand that, and it wasn't fair to you, and this is a big deal here. So that's my thought. Yeah. Okay. So that no matter what happens, you all at least get a chance to vote on on this issue. We're good on that? You support? Okay. Okay, anything else, Natalie?
Nope.
Yeah, I too have to say I'm very impressed with this. It's a very thorough, very thought out, concise plan, and looking forward to seeing all the applicants.
So, Mr. Mayor, just next steps, so you guys have an update, is at your next couple council meetings, you'll see a formal adoption of this RFP process, and then you'll also see a budget resolution to again formalize the previous items and this item. So we'll see you in the next couple meetings.
So Amy, you don't have anything to say? You just sit there?
Shockingly enough, no.
Okay.
I'm gonna sit here unless you have questions for me.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, Councilor Bate-Stuvi.
Yes, Mayor. Actually, this question is for Mr. Peely. In the event that we do get a large amount of applicants, and this is becoming a little bit more of a tedious project, are we ready and prepared to handle that, to work within the timeline, and how does that look for you?
Thank you, Councilor. You know, I probably just defer right back to Natalie on how we're going to handle that, but go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Stuvey, depending on the number of applications, I'm going to ask for a little off the top, so to speak, to hire potentially contract employees to help us manage the contracts. Part of this process will require some intensive monitoring, so if we're really busy with ARPA, and again, my staff's grant funded, so they are paid to work on the grants they're hired for, so we will need someone to work on this one, unless you want to cover all my staff out of general fund. So we'll ask for likely a contract employee and then a compliance person. And I'll also defer to Amy because she doesn't know I'm asking for money.
Actually, I did know she was asking for money, so at the next, when we bring the budget resolution, there is going to be the 10% de minimis rate for this particular category to be able to provide Natalie's department with some extra support. We don't know that we'll need that on the other recommendations, so that it will not be a part of the initial budget adjustment, but we know that Natalie will need at least one contract employee and potentially more than that to get these off the ground and to get them monitored, as they are very intensive monitoring requirements on them.
And that was Amy Johnson Bassford speaking.
Sorry about
That's
that.
okay, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That's all.
Good. Okay, I believe that's it. Anything else, CFO, on work session? You're done, correct?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Yeah, I think we're done. Okay, then entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Bicomo, second by Councilor Bate-Stuvi. Christine?
This is on the motion to adjourn the work session. Councilor Bate-Stuvi?
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Sorg?
Yes.
Councilor Flores is absent. Councilor Gandara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, yes. Okay, so it's 3:51, so we're adjourned, and then a few minutes to switch over for the agenda setting meeting, which you're welcome to sit through.